Hey, welcome back for another Tutorial Tuesday. This week, by request, we're talking about clustering. And I am by no means an expert when it comes to clustering, but I am going to show you my thought process as I approach a page. And first I want to show you some examples of some pages that have good clusters on them. Some are the ones I've made and some are just ones I found on Pinterest. So this first one, you can see, has a few different cluster areas. When you're working on designing in a layout or designing in general with anything, people's minds work better with odd numbers, groups of 3 in particular. So you can tell by this layout that this designer knows that. She has 3 pieces of paper here. We have 3 distinct cluster sections, and you can see how it really makes your eye go around the page. You start by noticing this main cluster here with the light on the photo really brings your eye in there. And then your eye goes up to this top cluster where you can see kind of the, other little journaling spots. And then you go down and finish the layout down here. So when you're designing your layout and you're deciding where to put your clusters, keep in mind and think about where you want your viewer's eye to go on your page. You're going to want it to focus on the photos, on the journaling, on the title. So those are the kinds of areas usually when I design that I have my clusters focus around. You don't want them just in the middle of a page, with no purpose. You kind of put them where you want your eye to go to. So here's one example. Let's go to the next one. This is one that I made. When I cluster, and you can tell if you look at more of my layouts, I am a very type A, geometrically minded person. So my clusters are usually very organized. I often have an area that goes vertically, an area that goes horizontally. It's usually pretty clean cut, but I love to layer and have things peeking out. And you can remember that you can use your cut and fill menu to cut pieces of elements out so that it looks like it's even more woven together. Give it more of a realistic look that you could achieve with actual string or actual paper and paper clips. Here's another one that you can see. You've got your 3 areas that your eyes go right to. So you start over here with the main one, and then it goes up here and then down to the title. And that forms a nice visual triangle. I've talked about visual triangles before, but try to have your eyes go in a triangle format. Again, people like eyes like odd numbers, 3s in particular. This is one that I did not make, but this lady has 3 photos right here. So you go from one to the next to the next. There's also 3 cluster areas right here, up at the top and down at the bottom. And then finally, here's one that's very, square, rectangles all over the place. So to help your eye kind of navigate through, I have one little cluster of flowers here, another here, and another down here. And that makes your nice triangle. So it helps your eyes kind of navigate through the page so that you see all the photos. And then finally, this one doesn't have many embellishments on it, but you can tell you've got your 3 hearts here. They vary in size. That's a nice touch. And they make a nice triangle so that your eyes go right down the length of the page. You can also see that we have 3 pieces of paper here, very aesthetically pleasing, and 3 photos. So keep that in mind. You don't have to use 3, 3, 3 all the time, but it really helps, especially as you're getting started and just figuring out what to do with your layouts with clustering. So now I want to take you to an actual layout that I'm working on now. And this is the Facebook freebie template from She Creates right now, and I posted it yesterday as my Motivation Monday challenge. I challenged you to do a layout with this template sometime this week, and so I'm working on mine. And so the layout when I first got it did not have photo spots for these 2 photos, so your template will look like that without these. And so don't feel like you have to only have 1 photo. You can add more photos as you want, and so I did because I had 3 pictures I wanted to use. And then I went ahead and filled in the paper spots. So I've got my paper back here, and I filled in these paper spots as well. And I added frames to my photos. Those are my first steps always. I put my pictures in my template, I fill in the papers, I add my frames, and then next I always add my titles. So that's what I've done for you now, and I have it done so that we don't have to waste time and have you watch me add my alpha on one at a time. You can see the credits up here, the You Are My Happy Kit from the Sweet Shop, and the alpha is from Albums to Remember, in case you want to grab any of the things you like here. Now when I'm ready to do my clustering, which embellishments are the last things I add to my page. So I have my whole page done except for the journaling, which I'll do later. I'm ready to do my embellishments. So when I'm at that point, I go to my folder where I have my kit, which is right here. I go down and I hold down Control and I click all the embellishments that I like, that I think I would like to use on my layout. You can go down and click as many as you want, and then I hold and drag and drop them over here into this empty workspace. I've already done that, so I don't need to do it again. I move usually when you work on your layout you have it centered like that. I move it over so that I have all this empty space over here to layer out my embellishments. So they're all right there. And then next I like to highlight all of them like that, and except for the splatter, we don't do that to splatter, and add a light shadow. That way my shadowing's all done at once. Everything's ready. I'm going to take the shadow off the tape because we don't usually shadow tape either. And I'm ready to go. So these are the pieces that came with my template. You can see here I've got these turquoise buttons, this little spot which could be like a date tag or something like that, the star. So I've got, oh, and there's another star there. So I've got all these spots. Now you could just fill them in with paper. I don't usually do that. I usually use actual embellishments from my kit. So I will delete these all as we go along, but I like to use them now as placement spots so that I can kind of see. And these designers know what they're doing and they are going to kind of cluster for you. So instead of this back here, I'm going to use this tape to kind of hold my photo on there. Get a little bit smaller. And I'm going to click them both and group. That way it'll bring it down where it needs to be on the order over here. And then I'll ungroup and delete that box out. Alright, let's see what else do I want. I really like this ribbon, so I'm going to use this ribbon over here. And I'm going to drop it maybe a little bit smaller and drop it underneath my title there. Let me find my ribbon. I'm just going to drag it down and get it underneath my title, just so I can see that word a little bit better. There we go. And I like to have my ribbons being like held on by something, so I'm going to sneak this button underneath it. Let's find where my button is. There it is. It needs to be a little bit smaller, I think. I don't usually use buttons that aren't threaded, so if I have a button that's not threaded, I like to sneak it underneath a ribbon or a string or something. So I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. Alright, since I have that there, I'm going to get rid of these buttons. I'm just going to click them and delete. And that star is not really doing much for me, but let's put something there. I have this heart that I like, so I can put that up here and kind of tilt it a little bit maybe and get rid of that star. And then also I'm going to add a little staple to this. I like to have things held on by staples. And I pulled that out of a different kit because there wasn't a staple in this kit. But that's okay. I need to move it to the front so you can see it. There you go. And now we need some kind of a little cluster over here. Again, I like to do like a vertical thing along my photos usually. And this leaf is pointing the wrong direction for me, so I'm going to flip it. It's under the rotate menu. You can always flip, and it'll just make it point the other way. That way that one leaf that's pointing out isn't going to be right over my son's head. Make this a little bit smaller, and we'll sneak it right in there. And then I'm going to put a real flower in place of that flower. So let's get rid of that and the star that's on top of his photo. And maybe this yellow flower will work here. We need to move it up a little bit so it's on top of the leaf. Make it a lot smaller. And then get rid of that puzzle piece also. I think it'd be kind of fun also to have this little arrow pointing to his curls, because that's going to be the focus of this page. Him and his curls, because he's my first child that's gotten curls from me. Everyone else has stick straight hair like their dad. So I'm going to drop this underneath the flower. Try to keep things looking like they're being tucked in. So I'm going to put it between the leaves and the flower. Maybe I can even move this out a little bit so I have a little bit more room. And tilt this in. Move this down. I can make this a little bit bigger then. And I want it pointing right at his curl, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to repeat the staple, because I like staples. And I'll put a little staple right on here. So let me zoom in so you can see what this is going to look like. So I'm going to tuck again. So let's see if we go like this. I can put it underneath that flower because I don't want it sticking through my flower petals. There you go. There. Alright, what else do we have here? So I've got my nice little cluster of 3 here. I've got 3 things up here. Maybe something down here. I'm going to repeat these leaves because I like to do that. There were other leaves in the kit, but once I pick a leaf, I don't generally go with other kinds of leaves. I'm going to move this down underneath here. And we'll just group it to the back real quick so it drops down underneath my photos. And then ungroup it. And I'm going to add this little you and me. That's kind of cute. That's what this page is going to be about. And we need a little flower in there to break up the green. So let me see what other flowers we have left. And maybe this white one. And again, we need to group that down underneath with the leaves. I want it to go underneath my You and Me title block. And ungroup it so I can move it around a little bit. I'm going to rotate it just a touch and move it up and in a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit heavier of a shadow to these leaves because they're getting kind of lost in the paper, I feel like. It's a little bit better. And I'm going to add one more staple. Keep the staples in sets of 3 too. You like 3s. Kind of put it on top of here, maybe like that. Alright. I've got the splatter, and there's splatter that came with my template, but this is kind of crazy. It's all different colors, so I'm going to delete that, and I'm just going to recolor the splatter that's already there. So let's cut and fill that color. Use yellow. Okay, and then I'm going to move them around a little bit, so I don't need these big blobs hanging out right by my journaling. Okay, I can journal later. I have my clusters. I've got a nice little triangle, this bold alpha down here, and then these photos kind of makes a little triangle here. I have other things over here I didn't use, but that's okay. You can just delete them. You don't need to keep them. It's okay if you bring in more than you're actually going to use. And I think that's my layout. It looks good. I'm done. I need to delete these couple extra things I didn't use that came with my template. And I'll journal, and then I'll get it uploaded for you in a little while. But there's an example using a template. You can use where they have the pieces already put to kind of help you figure out how to cluster. If you aren't using a template, I would recommend, at least until you get good at doing it on your own, trying to find a page that you like. I'm not going to save the page, I already have it saved. Trying to find a page that you like that you can scrap lift, because that will really help direct you to as to where you should put your items. So I have this layout that I found on Pinterest, and Pinterest is a great spot. If you're not on it, I would recommend joining just for the fact that you can find great scrapbook layouts there. So here's a scrapbook layout that I really liked. I like the clustering. There's a ton of clustering and one central photo. I tend to be a one photo scrapper. I know some of you aren't, but that's okay. You can cluster even if you have more photos. So there's my inspiration. So I started by putting my photo on. I added some paper in the background. I put my title and my frame. Those are what I do first. And then I went through my kit, which is the Silly Billy kit, and I found all the little pieces that I thought would look great on my page. And you don't have to use all of them. We can delete them when we're done, but these are just the things that I thought worked. So I'm going to start with the back, and I'm going to add some splatter because I like splatter. I'm going to add it a couple different times because it's not big enough to reach across my whole photo block here. I'm just copying and pasting, just Control C and Control V. I'm going to rotate this one so we can get some of the other colors. I haven't really gotten much of the red yet, so we'll go like that. And then I'm going to take all 3 of these that I just put on here. I'm going to group them. And then we'll send them to the back. and they'll go behind my paper, so I'll move them up. So there I have some splatter. That's good. This layout that I'm trying to kind of copy has a lot of splatter on it. Let's see, it also has this big circle over here, which I kind of like, so I grabbed a circle out of my kit. I'm going to move that behind here. So we'll move it down underneath our photo. So let's see, here's my photo, so I'm going to move it down under with this. I'll go under my photo. Grouping, ungroup it. And I forgot to add shadows when I imported all these over here, so I'm just going to do that. And there's my circle, kind of like on the layout that I'm scraplifting. I have one strip of paper here, but there are more on here, so let's grab a couple more to put across. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Oops, not bigger, smaller. Like that, and we'll group that with this, so it goes underneath. I'm going to run out of time here, I think, so let me just peek real quick and see how long I'm going. 16 minutes. I only get 20, otherwise I can't upload to Facebook, so I might have to cut this one short. I like this little swirly, clustery thing. I'm going to move that to the back also. And that's a little bit too heavy for me, so let's try to drop the opacity and see what happens. If it doesn't work, you can always get rid of it. If you need it to be smaller, you can make it smaller. Like that. And then you can copy and paste it a couple different times like we did with the splatter, so that you can still see it peeking out of all the areas. Just going to group it down. And I'm not really crazy about it, so I'm going to hide it for now. We can always bring it back later if we want. I like this little flag thing, banner. So let's add a shadow and see where it fits, and if it doesn't fit anywhere, that's fine. There's no right or wrong way, and a lot of times I just do trial and error until I find something that I think works for me on my layout. So keep that in mind. You can just move things around until you find where you think it's going to work. And that doesn't really work there. Maybe it will work up in the corner up here. I think I'm going to like this better. It's a little smaller. Put it up here. You have seen my little shout out to the designer, so I'm going to move that out of the way. Yeah, that's just not really doing it for me, so let's get rid of it. I'm going to check my time one more time because I don't want to go over and have to re-record. You can work on this and just move things around. I'm going to move this to the back. Let's group it with this. Find something that works for you, and if you don't like it, delete it or hide it at least, and then when you find what you like, then you will know, and it'll get easier as you go. I don't feel like this page needs a whole lot more. I'm going to journal down here, I think, a few little lines down here, maybe a couple lines up here. I might sneak a little flower or something in here underneath, so it's just peeking out from behind the photo. So we'll group that down here also. And we'll bring it underneath. What it would look like on top of the, see, so I'm just doing a lot of trial and error here. I'm going to see what it would look like on top of this yellow circle. Whoops, wrong thing. I didn't really like that either. I might be about done. I'm going to add a little bit of this confetti to the background because I like that confetti. That would go great back here with this background paper. Make sure that you put things like confetti on top of your paint because that's how it would be in real life. I might copy and paste it again and put some more coming out from down here. I might add a couple stars. I'll post my finished layout in a little bit. But remember to try to go in triangles in groups of 3. Use your clusters, move things around, tuck them in. try to get a layout done this week with clustering, and try to do something with your Monday Motivation Challenge this week too. All right, thanks for joining me. I hope it helped a little bit. Bye-bye.